There is a small town in Vermont where an old clockmaker named Walter Hensley spent 40 years fixing broken watches. People came from 3 counties to hand him their heirlooms, and he treated every one of them like a friend. When Walter died, the whole town said the same thing at his funeral. He was the kindest man we ever knew, but his own daughter stood at the back of the room, dry-eyed, because she remembered a different Walter, the one who saved his warmth for strangers and gave his family only silence. 2 versions of the same man. And the frightening question that haunted her for years was simple: which one was real? That question is the doorway into everything we are about to talk about today. Because most of us are not in relationships with people. We are in relationships with the versions of people we invented inside our own minds. And the day that illusion breaks is one of the most painful and most freeing days of your entire life. Let me ask you something. Have you ever grieved someone who was still alive? Not because they left, but because the person you thought they were never actually existed in the first place. The people we invent. Carl Jung once treated a woman who arrived at his office completely shattered by betrayal. She kept repeating one sentence like a broken record. "I don't understand how they could do this to me." And Jung noticed something that most people miss. She was not weeping over the lie itself. She was weeping over the collapse of a fantasy. The person she had loved so deeply had only ever lived inside her own imagination. This is the machinery of the human mind, and it is far stranger than we admit. You meet someone confident, and your brain quietly decides they must be loyal. You meet someone attractive, and you assume they must be kind. Someone understands you emotionally one single time, and within weeks you have constructed an entire soul around them that was never truly there. Reality does not correct this gently. It arrives like a cold draft under a locked door. You feel it in the delayed replies, in the disrespect wrapped up as a harmless joke, in the sudden distance the moment you stop being useful to someone, in that quiet, stomach-dropping realization that a person only seems to want you when you are emotionally available to serve them. You have felt this before, even if you never gave it a name. That eerie moment when the version of someone living inside your head feels warmer, softer, and more real than the actual human being standing right in front of you. I want you to do something before we go deeper. Drop this affirmation in the comments so it becomes real for you today. Write, "I no longer confuse the person I imagined with the person who is actually standing in front of me." Type it out slowly, because naming a thing is the first step to freeing yourself from it. The mask that forgets it is a mask. Once you see this pattern, you cannot unsee it. You start noticing how people become entirely different depending on which room they are standing in. The loyal friend transforms into a stranger when you are not around. The gentle person turns cruel the second they taste a little social power. The one who preached honesty gets defensive the very moment you are honest with them. Here is the unsettling part. Most of these people are not consciously lying to you. They genuinely believe they are the mask they wear. Jung called this the persona, the polished face we show the world, and he warned that the more a person avoids their hidden self, the more artificial their whole personality becomes. That is why certain people feel strangely hollow once you have known them long enough. The performance eventually starts to glitch. The mask slips for a single second, and underneath the charm you glimpse the insecurity. Underneath the constant support you catch the flicker of envy. Underneath the affection you feel the grip of control. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. He understood 500 years ago what we are still refusing to admit today. People fear being seen. But more than that, they are terrified of being seen completely. If this content is making sense to you and something in your chest is tightening as you listen, click the subscribe button and join the Mindset Stamps family. Thank you for your support. because what comes next is going to sharpen the way you see every relationship in your life. When you start reading patterns, after that first realization, something quiet shifts inside you. You stop listening only to what people say, and you start studying what they repeatedly do. Patterns are honest, even when people are not. Patterns reveal the very things human beings spend their whole lives trying to bury. You begin to notice how certain people only become affectionate the moment they feel you pulling away. How respect suddenly appears the instant you create distance. How attention floods back in the second you stop chasing it. And once you see this, it becomes almost impossible to look away. Human behavior is deeply reactive. Most people do not value what is freely given. They value what feels hard to hold on to. That is the cruel reason kindness gets ignored until the day it vanishes. Kindness without boundaries quietly trains people to use you. Think about it. This conditioning starts far earlier than any of us realize. You saw it in school without understanding it. The quiet student who became a target simply because they tolerated disrespect. The arrogant kid who was showered with admiration despite treating everyone poorly. The one who sacrificed endlessly for the group and slowly became invisible. As if human beings organize themselves around power long before they ever learn about morality. Jung believed that whatever a person refuses to accept in themselves, they project onto others. And once you understand projection, human society becomes almost eerie to watch. The insecure accuse everyone else of seeking attention. The dishonest obsess over loyalty. The controlling call themselves protectors. The people most terrified of being abandoned are often the ones who emotionally smother everyone close to them. Everyone confesses who they are eventually, not through their words, but through their repetition. The quiet power of victimhood. At first, these realizations wound you because your mind desperately wants to defend the people you poured your heart into. So you rationalize. They are just stressed. They did not really mean it. That is just how they are. But then a darker thought slips in through the back door. What if you have been translating disrespect into misunderstanding this whole time, simply because you were afraid of losing them? That single question changes everything, because a great many relationships survive not on love, but on denial. Denial keeps broken families functioning at the dinner table. Denial keeps toxic friendships breathing for years. Denial keeps good people emotionally chained to those who stopped valuing them long ago. Most relationships do not end when respect disappears. They end the day awareness finally arrives. And here is one of the most dangerous truths Jung uncovered. Some of the most harmful people you will ever meet are not the openly cruel ones. They are the ones completely convinced of their own innocence. The friend who tears you down for your own good. The partner who makes you feel guilty for needing a little space. The person who creates the chaos, then plays the wounded victim when you finally react to it. They drain your energy while wearing the costume of the one who was hurt. Because victimhood itself can become a form of power. Nietzsche warned about exactly this when he wrote, "Beware of those in whom the urge to punish is strong." He knew that some people disguise their will to control as pure moral suffering. Let me ask you something honest. How many people in your life have made you apologize for reacting to a wound that they themselves caused? I want you to write in the comments the name of one boundary you are finally going to stop apologizing for, so the rest of this community can stand with you on it. What do they actually want from me? The moment you understand this, your perception of every conversation changes permanently. You stop focusing on the words people choose and start asking one quiet question underneath everything. What emotional outcome does this person actually want from me? That question reveals almost everything. Some people want admiration. Some want obedience. Some want you emotionally dependent on them. And some simply want someone beneath them, so they can temporarily escape their own gnawing feeling of inadequacy. People rarely seek connection as purely as they claim. Often they are seeking regulation, a way to soothe an emptiness they cannot bear to face alone. This is where the romance of it all begins to crumble too, because a surprising number of relationships are not built on love at all. They are built on silent psychological contracts. I will make you feel valuable if you make me feel wanted. I will save you if you promise never to leave. I will admire you if you protect me from my loneliness. That is why people seem to change overnight the moment the emotional transaction stops paying them. They did not suddenly become a different person. The mask was always attached to a condition, and conditions always reveal themselves in the end. Consider a young accountant named Ethan Carter, who spent 3 years being everybody's rock. He lent money he was never repaid. He answered every late-night crisis call. He believed he was surrounded by love. Then one winter he lost his job and needed help himself, and the phone that once rang constantly went silent. Ethan did not lose his friends that winter. He simply discovered what they had actually been all along. The silence taught him more in 1 month than 3 years of laughter ever had. The moment you change your role, nothing exposes human nature faster than changing the role people quietly assign to you. Become successful and watch hidden envy rise to the surface. Become vulnerable and watch hidden disrespect crawl out. Set a boundary and watch hidden entitlement show its face. The quiet person becomes confident. The agreeable one starts saying no. The insecure one begins to heal. And suddenly, the very people who swore they loved them grow uncomfortable. Why? Because some of those relationships were secretly built around your weakness. People do not always love who you are becoming. Sometimes they only loved who you used to be, back when you were easier to control. This is why genuine healing can feel socially dangerous. When you stop tolerating disrespect, manipulative people will call you selfish. When you stop over-explaining yourself, insecure people will call you cold and distant. When you stop chasing approval, some people lose all interest in you, not because you became worse, but because your role in the play changed and they never agreed to a new script. Most human relationships are far more role-based than anyone wants to confess. The funny friend, the strong one, the listener, the endless helper. The instant you stop performing your assigned part, people react as though you shattered an invisible agreement, and in most cases, you truly did. Today we are placing the stamp of clarity on your mental framework so that you can finally see these roles for what they are. And if this video is awakening something in you, click subscribe and stay with this journey, because the next truth is one most people avoid their entire lives. The loneliness of seeing clearly. This awareness does not make you hate humanity. It simply removes the fantasy. And once the fantasy dissolves, loneliness begins to feel different, not heavier, sharper. You start to understand that being surrounded by people and being truly understood are two completely separate experiences. Some of the loneliest people you will ever meet have full phones and crowded rooms and conversations every single day, but no one around them sees past their usefulness, their identity, or what is expected of them. You may have felt this yourself without ever finding the words for it. That strange exhaustion after socializing. The sense that you were physically present but psychologically absent, performing a version of yourself that kept everyone comfortable while the real you stayed hidden underneath. Jung wrote something that cuts to the bone. He said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents." And that same pattern follows us straight into adulthood. Society rewards the mask early. Be agreeable, be attractive, be successful, be useful, be emotionally easy to digest. And slowly people stop asking who they truly are and start asking a far more dangerous question. What version of me gets accepted the fastest? There is a heavy silence that comes with this stage, so I want to invite you to do something that will solidify this process. Write in the comments a truth you are tired of hiding, an opinion you have been too afraid to voice, a thought that makes you feel isolated but that represents who you truly are underneath the performance. This is part of the journey, claiming your voice, showing your presence, and declaring that you will no longer bend yourself into shapes just to be accepted. The shadow you find in yourself. Here is where most people misunderstand Jung completely. Seeing the darkness in other people is only half of the journey. The real horror begins the day you recognize that exact same darkness living inside yourself. That moment tends to arrive quietly. You catch yourself enjoying someone's failure, feeling secretly validated when another person becomes insecure around you. Withholding affection just to regain a little control, performing confidence while hiding fear, pretending not to care because caring has started to feel dangerous, and the flattering image of yourself as different, as better, as one of the good ones, begins to crack. That is the shadow Jung spent his life warning us about. It is not evil, it is your hidden humanity, the parts of yourself you cut away from your identity because they felt unacceptable. Jealousy, neediness, ego, the quiet desire to dominate, to be worshipped, to be chosen over everyone else. Most people spend their whole lives pretending these impulses do not exist. But repression never destroys the darkness. It buries it alive, and buried things keep steering the car from the back seat. This is why the people who need to appear most morally pure are sometimes the most psychologically dangerous. Their shadow becomes so denied that it leaks out sideways through passive aggression, guilt trips, judgment, and quiet resentment. A person who has actually confronted their shadow does not become perfect. They become humble. They understand exactly what they are capable of under the right pressure. History has proven this again and again. Civilized people turn cruel faster than they ever imagine. Loyal people betray. Honest people lie. Place enough fear, humiliation, or desire into a human being, and the behavior changes with terrifying speed. As the ancient Stoic Seneca warned, we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of us are not fixed, stable identities. We are adaptable conditions wearing the costume of a personality. Drop this affirmation in the comments to anchor this truth in yourself today. Write, "I have the courage to look at my own shadow without flinching, because that is where my real power has been hiding all along." Familiarity over happiness. Jung left us with a line that most people never truly absorb. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Most human beings never realize how much of their personality is simply running on automatic. They think they fell in love, when often they were just repeating a childhood attachment pattern. They think they have terrible luck with people, when unconsciously they keep choosing the same familiar emotional dynamic over and over. They think everyone betrays them, yet they ignore every warning sign, because the fantasy always feels safer than the reality. Human beings do not only chase happiness, they chase familiarity, even when that familiarity is quietly destroying them. That is why some people keep returning to toxic relationships and emotionally unavailable partners. The pain feels familiar, and familiarity feels like home, even when home was never safe. This is also why people resist change so violently. Change threatens identity. If someone has spent years being the victim, healing feels like losing themselves. If someone built their entire worth around being needed, a boundary feels like a threat. Most people are not protecting the truth. They are protecting the structure of who they believe themselves to be. Once you understand this, you stop taking so much of it personally. The disrespect, the projection, the sudden coldness. Much of it was never truly about you. You simply triggered an unresolved part of them that they were desperately trying not to face. Sometimes your confidence reminds someone of their own insecurity. Sometimes your growth quietly exposes their stagnation, and rather than confront themselves, they punish you, often through tiny withdrawals and cold silences almost impossible to explain to anyone else. Clarity, not cynicism. There is a fork in the road at this stage, and it decides everything. Some people become cynical here, cold, emotionally unreachable. They convince themselves that trust is weakness and detachment is intelligence. They start expecting manipulation before kindness and self-interest before loyalty. It feels intelligent, it feels like armor, but it is a slow spiritual death. Jung believed the goal was never to become naive and never to become cynical either. The goal was to become conscious, to see human nature with clear eyes without losing your own humanity in the process. And that balance is far rarer than people think, because once you truly see reality, you can never fully return to the illusion. You start to understand why certain conversations suddenly feel empty, why some smiles feel rehearsed, why some people only ever loved the parts of you that served them, and why almost everyone around you is fighting a private psychological war they will never admit to out loud. But the darkest realization is also the most liberating one. The masks were never the real problem. The problem was believing they were permanent. Human beings are contradictory creatures, capable of love and manipulation, loyalty and betrayal, tenderness and cruelty, sometimes within the same single hour. Maturity begins the moment you stop searching for perfect people and start seeing people exactly as they are, fragmented, wounded, afraid, and performing, yourself included. Because the day you stop romanticizing people is the same day you stop needing them to complete a fantasy inside your mind. You stop begging reality to be softer than it is, and that is the strange moment your vision finally becomes clear, not optimistic, not bitter, simply clear. Clarity changes the way you move through the world. You become slower to trust, but far deeper when you finally do, harder to manipulate, but more honest with yourself. Less addicted to attention, less hypnotized by charm, less willing to abandon your own intuition just to keep a person close. Because now you understand what most people avoid their whole lives. The greatest danger was never that other people could deceive you. It was that your own loneliness, hope, and projections could deceive you first. And if this video touched something in you, if something inside you was awakened today, do not stop here. If you have made it this far, you already know you are not watching out of simple curiosity. You are here because something inside you has already begun to change. So keep going. You are not alone. You are simply ahead. And that, my dear, is frightening, but it is also freeing. Remember the clockmaker from the beginning of this video, the man with two faces at his own funeral. His daughter finally made peace the day she stopped asking which version of him was the real one and accepted that both were, that he was human, fragmented and afraid, doing the best a wounded man knew how to do. That acceptance did not excuse him, it simply set her free. So let me leave you with the real question. Which stamp are you adding to your mindset today? Tell me in the comments below. And if this made you realize something uncomfortable, either about the people around you or about the person staring back at you in the mirror, leave a single word in the comments. Write the word aware, because awareness is where the whole journey begins.